who maybe traditionally have not been there. Maybe folks didn't see them being involved with local government, but that's what's missing.
Chairman Miguel down at Front Steps, and we are here with Joseph Shepard, candidate for District 1 City Council.
Thank you. Yes. I'm excited to be back. Every time I'm in here, it's a vibe.
Yes,
so
yes,
I love being back.
Yeah, you were at our old location too.
Yep.
So yeah, we've definitely grown a little bit since then. So appreciate you coming back.
1000%.
So we'll ask a couple of questions. I think this is questions that people need to hear, especially when it comes to local politics, because it's local politics, and I think sometimes we get caught up in such a grander, big scale when it comes to presidential campaigns and stuff like that. We kind of skip past local politics, and it's important. Yeah. So I guess tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Joseph Shepard. I moved to Wichita, Kansas 16 years ago, grew up in poverty and homelessness, would sleep in cars, get washed up in fast food restaurants. And so the traditional sense of home never really existed for me. And so the first time I was able to make a decision for myself where to settle my roots, it was Wichita, Kansas. I came to Wichita to just visit my father. And then 2 weeks before school started at Wichita State, I enrolled in just about any class that I could, ended up going to Wichita State, became student body president, advocating for diversity, equity, and inclusion, managing a $9.1 million student fee budget. And for a kid who grew up poor, like $9.1 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so using that position of perceived authority to really elevate voices that had not been heard, and then elevate experiences that I felt like had not been considered on campus was huge for me too. Then later on, just, join my fraternity, rocking my fraternity shirt today,
hey.
Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And that kind of opened up the door to get involved in the Wichita community, being involved on the police chief search and really using my voice as a young person to talk about what we needed in our community, being out in the community gardens, but also being a part of some other things like Leadership Wichita with the chamber and other multiple areas, really expanding my reach as well as my leadership to help Wichita in any way that I can.
So it's about really kind of being active. You were
Absolutely.
It sounds like you were very active and even prior to doing what you do now.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about how they learn things in the classroom, and don't get me wrong, I'm proud of my degrees. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's in public administration, working on my doctorate. But I think most of the knowledge that I've gained is by interacting with people, being out in the world, touching and feeling and seeing the lived experiences of other people, and then learning how to take that into policy and take that into projects to really expose folks to the realities.
What does city council member actually do, and why should the average person care?
Yeah, the average person should care because you are going to feel any change that is happening in government. You're going to feel that at a local level first. I mean, and you're going to feel it directly. So when we talk about safe neighborhoods, when we talk about clean water, when we talk about clean streets, when we talk about economic development, when we talk about policies that are governed at the local level, all of that is shaped by your city council. If you have a pothole on your street and you driving and it busts your tire open, that is the responsibility of local government to make sure that every neighborhood has solid streets and that those potholes are cleared up. And that you have reliable water, again, good air, all those things that a lot of times we don't think about because we're so distracted by those high level conversations that are happening in DC. So that's why folks should care. And you want to elect someone that is not just able to connect with, the generation of 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but when you're in that seat, you're shaping a future for the generation that's not even here yet.
Yeah.
So that's critically important.
You're planting seeds at that point.
1000%. And you're planting seeds for trees that will bear shade in which you may never be able to enjoy, right? So you got to be visionary and selfless.
And I think that sometimes that's the heavy part, right? Is doing stuff knowing that you're not going to firsthand see the benefit of it, right?
1000%.
So a lot of people get fired up about the presidential, the presidential elections, but then they skip this altogether. Hey, so I guess a couple things why is that important to do it again on the local level? And then what are some key dates that we need to pay attention to or be mindful of when we're thinking about doing these kind of things?
Absolutely. So what drives political will is community will. So when community stands up, they use their voice and they say, not here, not now, or no, we don't like that, or that is not something that we've asked for, or this is great, here's how we can do it better, that is going to really move the public servants who sit in these political seats to actually move the needle on some of these things. And so, yes, presidential election is important. Congressional elections are important. Like even at the state level, what happens in Topeka, really important. It's also important who you're electing to your school board, who you're electing to lead your district, and how they have the ability to build consensus with other people to actually do the things that matter. And, you know, so often you hear these people talk a good game, but it's like, make sure we're doing the research to actually know if that's a function of local government and what authority local government has to change some of those things, because we've got to stop giving people false hope, because I think that that's also why a lot of people are done hearing about all these grandiose things that all these elected leaders want to do for us. And then when they actually get in there, they realize, oh, I can't do that. Yeah, it sounded good.
It's like a high school. It's like a pizza party.
Right.
Yeah. It's like when I get elected class president, pizza party every week. And it's like, oh, we kind of don't have the budget for that.
There's this thing called a budget, right? Like, it sounds good, but also there's unrestricted funds, restricted funds. Some things are funded by grants. Some things are funded by the federal government. We've seen a lot happening at the federal level where federal government is like, nah, you don't have that anymore. And now local governments don't have that funding. It's a thing.
Well, and that's something crazy. I tell everybody that you guys should really go on YouTube and watch your city council meetings. This is something, again, that's not necessarily new for me. I've watched it in the past, but now I'm a little bit more heightened on what it looks like and what this federal government, like the funding for local government from federal government, because a lot of that, and this is really off script, but it's sad to know that a lot of stuff is tied to that. So it's like, if we fault, city council for voting a certain way, but it's like, if they do that, it can affect
other things.
And other things it's millions of dollars. We're not talking about like, hey, we lose, we'll say a park, and then we just lost a park. We're talking about we lose funding for a lot of other stuff. So,
and it's this weird nuance and complexity that being a city council member, you have to sit in. But what I also say is, like, we've got to bring local government to the people to mobilize our opinion, to help them understand why we have to make certain decisions that are also not always decisions that city council may not be comfortable with, right? But you got to be able to navigate that nuance and complexity.
Okay. It says, so what was a personal moment in your life that kind of led you to get involved in local government?
So outside of growing up poor and being a benefactor of resources that local government provides, I was a Section 8 kid. I was the kid that relied on the funding that local government provided for those after school programs during the summer, or summer programming in general. And I know that because of the resources that were provided by some of these entities, be it housing, be it, rental assistance, all of those things, I want to extend the opportunity that I've been given to other people, because I was able to break the cycle of generational poverty because I had help. That help turned into me having hope. But more people deserve that, and they don't know those resources exist. If they know they exist, they don't know how to get connected to them or how to navigate them. But directly running for council in October of 2024, my brother was shot. And I spent 6 hours at Wesley Hospital waiting to hear from the doctor on whether or not my brother was going to live, to be quite frank. And I had already been talking about the gun violence that was happening in our city, and I had felt like not enough was happening. I felt like we were doing a lot of talking, but I felt like not enough action was happening. And it was in that moment, I felt like my higher power was speaking to me that now's the time to step up. Like, regardless of what the outcome is, you have a voice, you have a story, but you also have the passion for community, all of the community. And until we have someone who's able to ask the tough questions, raise the heat at a level in which we can manage from the council bench, nothing will change. And so I'm wanting to step up because I want people to see that good things can come from hard circumstances, and that our lived experiences are not just there to kind of teach us something, but it's necessary for other people as well.
I think that's too, like, whether positive or negative experiences, obviously positives are a little bit better, but that helps you to, to connect with others, right? And not just connect with others, but to know people's stories, right? Because we believe that, you know, every step tells a story and every story matters, right?
1000%.
So everything that you've gone through, whether from a child to now, like it all makes sense in who you are today and in your community. So.
Absolutely. You know, there's a lot of those aha moments, right? Every step tells a story. I love that. Don't be surprised if you hear that on the campaign trail.
You heard it here first.
But I mean, for so long throughout my life, I wonder, like, you know, not necessarily why God, but like, this is interesting. Like, I appreciate my struggles being homeless and struggling and growing up seeing things that I probably should not have seen. And then I look at where we are today, like our city is dealing with a homelessness crisis.
Yeah.
Okay. This is an opportunity to use some of my lived experiences to say, here's what I experienced, but also here's what I think is not right with this policy or ordinance that is making this difficult for people to transition back into society.
Well, and I think that comes down to like some people are out of touch, right? Because if you've never experienced if you never knew what it's like to sleep in a car, right? If you never knew what it's like to like, hopefully the paycheck's there, right? You know what I mean? And it's like, or you have to pick and choose what bill.
That's right.
And homelessness can affect anybody at any time.
We're all one paycheck away.
Yeah, there's nobody who's like above. Well, there's people out there, right, that are above homelessness, right? And but it'll take a long, but it's real speech, and it can happen to anybody. You know, sure. You can have, it's just like being handicapped or it's just one accident away from you not needing these. You guys go check out the city council meeting online. Like I'm telling you, it's really good. For someone who's never voted before or feels disconnected from politics, what is the first step they can take to get involved?
They need to support their preferred candidate, and they also need to ask questions. They need to research each candidate and then ask those questions. Find out what's important to them, not what they've read online or what they've seen on TikTok or Instagram, but what is truly going to be a policy that's going to make their life better, that's within the purview of a city council member. And then ask that person who's running, like, where do you stand on this? And then once they answer that, get behind them. Be it, hey, maybe you don't have $10 to donate to that campaign, but can you knock 10 doors? If you can't knock 10 doors because it's hot outside, maybe you can make 10 phone calls on that person's behalf. But I think, we all have to have some skin in the game. And I think right now, what I'm telling people is like, when we are elected, we are going to open up the doors of City Hall. And it is going to be our opportunity to chart a new path, write a new chapter in local government. And there are going to be some folks at the table who maybe traditionally have not been there. Maybe folks didn't see them being involved with local government, but that's what's missing. The gap in local government is that we have got to diversify who we are putting at the table to share their experiences and their passions.
So that'll actually bring us to our next question. The steps means success through every person's support. So that's kind of our mission. So what kind of support does a city council need from their community once they're elected?
Outside of the emotional and mental well-being of a council member, being in this race since February.
I can imagine.
I tell people I'm saved, but I'm from the south side of the kingdom. So, really got to protect my peace because sometimes I'll go there, right? But ultimately, everybody up there, regardless of how I feel about their ideological belief system, they're human. And they get death threats. They get, memed. They get all these things that they have to sit with, right? For the cost of trying to represent their community. And we can go into battles about what causes that and all, if it's effective. But the reality is check on your council member, check on them and be just as loud when they do something you're supportive of. Because when they do something we're not supportive of, we are real loud.
Well, and that's the thing. It's even city council members that it's happened now. It's incidents happen, and then it's automatically and it's like everybody's under stress. You guys aren't entrepreneurs, right? I don't see that, but there's a statistic that I've seen, and it's people who own their own business or even entrepreneurs, mental health wise, especially if you're a person of color,
1,000%.
It's 78% have some sort of they talk about some sort of depression or anxiety and stuff like that with doing that. So imagine the weight of a city on you, know what I mean?
1,000%.
So, and you're representing, and you want to do the best to represent your people and not just people of color or anything like that, but just your people. And it's like, I can't imagine, but I can, like, amount of stress that you guys are. So a nice letter would be nice.
A nice letter would be nice.
You know what I mean? Going
yeah,
to DMs,
snail mail.
Yeah, go in there and just say, I see what you're doing,
yes.
you guys. I think it's super important. And that's something that we're also big with, you guys, is making sure that people feel that they're loved and they're supported. So, and making sure people are appreciated. And again, that's even if it's, the person didn't do something right once, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily a bad person. Exactly. Right. And I think that's it. I think we get to the point where it's like someone's on this level that you're not allowed to make mistakes. You're not allowed to be human. Like,
you're purity complex.
It's like, you're like, so you put me on the pedestal, but you can make mistakes. And it's I don't think that's fair.
No.
But so how can a younger generation, especially creatives, artists, like the dreamers, bring their energy into local politics while staying true to themselves? Because I think sometimes they feel like, oh, if I do this, like if I go to a city council, that's so old, right?
Yeah.
Like, old people go to city council meetings and stuff like that. How can they get more involved?
Yeah, 1000%. So particularly for the artists, the creatives, the dreamers, I have an affinity for that group of folks. I'm an advocate for the arts because I believe that it is, one, an economic driver, but it often tells the stories that we feel within when we don't have the words to say.
Yeah.
But then also like the mental health aspect of it, the art therapy aspect of it, the ability to create a community where other people want to come to even if they don't live there, right? Like, there's something powerful about the arts. So ultimately, here's what they can do. One, they need to continue to share their message and their story, be it through music, be it through dance, during the visual art, whatever the case may be. Art can also be a form of protest, right? And so how do we showcase what policies and projects we're not standing for via art, right? And so I would be a very staunch supporter of that. I'm also gonna be a huge supporter of keeping that 2% for the public art, public design in the city budget there, because we need the arts. Truly, we've seen what it's done for our community when we've invested in it over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here in the front steps building, right? Like, so ultimately music, I curated that music list.
Yeah.
Folks who will never talk to me one-on-one could go and listen to that playlist
and at least get a piece of what you,
exactly, right? Like, that is the wave of the future. Like, I think children, young people, they may not want to go to a city hall meeting to get to know the personality of a council member, but they might listen to a playlist and they may be like, hey, Joseph, I saw you had Kendrick Lamar on your playlist. Like, what you know about that, right? Yeah.
And I think that's that relatability. And I think that's the reason why the sound checks are so important, because like it shows that relatability. And we were talking earlier about that, and like how that's like the 7 degrees of separation, especially with the nomination. It's like all these people who you build a small community, and obviously we see the community as bigger than us, and we're just being put into the community, right? But I think that's important. It starts with music. Music shows you how you were raised.
That's right.
But to kind of speak on what you were talking about with the music, I think music is important. Even anybody who's sit and talked to me for a short amount of time, they'll know that like the content of your music makes a difference. I grew up off of like the Marvin Gaye's, the Stevie Wonder, where they had like we have a social job. Anytime you are art and you're creative, you're the first line, you're the first thing of being, you're boots on the ground, right?
1000%.
Yeah, so like it should reflect that. And I think that we need to get back to that. I think we kind of slipped away from that, but I think we need to get back to the point of like music matters and protest through music, right?
Yes.
So this brings me to my next question. It says, Wichita just got voted number 2 on the most boring city. What's your thoughts on that? And how do we change that perspective?
Yeah, we've got to invest in ourselves.
Yeah.
We are worth the investment.
Yeah.
Well, who was it? Fred VanVleet, who said, bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Wichita State University grad, now going on to be in the NBA, was just elected MPA president, MBPA president.
Yeah, he did. He got that. Yeah, that's super cool.
Right, but he invested in himself. When everybody counted Fred out and said, "You're not cut out for this," he was like, "Watch me." Yeah. Watch me. And so like, I think this is our time. How do we eat those no's for breakfast as a city and say, watch us? And so it looks like investing in ourselves and taking a bet on that risk. That means looking at, okay, I know a lot of people feel that sales tax are regressive, and I do believe sales tax do tend to hurt low income people more than any population. So we have to be mindful of that. And people have educated me and shared their perspective on it. But we've got to do something. And decreasing the mill levy is not what's going to push us to invest in ourselves and do the things to create a city where we all want to live, learn,
watch the
play.
YouTube, you guys, because this is something that I did not know about. And Councilman Johnson actually talked about it, and he was talking about raising the it's what's it called,
the mill levy.
The mill levy. So, and it's raising it $14 each person, right? Just so you guys can kind of get educated on it. It's $14 per person, which seems like a lot, right? But I'm gonna say this because like I have no affiliation in anything, right? But $14, I have seen a lot of you trick off $14 on the stupidest things like fast food, Uber. Think about just like your service fees on Uber Eats. Think about your service fee. And I'm not talking about like local coffee shops or anything like that. I'm thinking about all these other coffee shops. If you're going to do that, then make sure you spend it local. All this money needs to go local. And that's why local politics is so important, and local community is so important, and like what businesses are here and what businesses we support. Because $14 in the grand scheme of things to help the city grow, obviously, you know, it should be worth the investment.
And that's if we would have just kept it flat, right? I mean, they would have not really seen any change, but like the difference is the $14. Cutting it saves the average homeowner who owns a home, I believe, of $250,000. So if you own a home of $250,000, yes, you're going to see a savings of $14 because we've cut the mill levy. But then also we already hear people saying our core services are not where they need to be.
Bus systems.
Right. So that's not going to help get better. So we got to look at other options to invest to make sure that those core services are there and that we're doing things that are meaningful in terms of the quality of life so that we are not seen as a boring city to other people.
And I think that's huge. I think you just have to invest. If you want anything, you have to invest in it, right? Again, it's skin in the game, right? So grand scheme of things, I know we can probably have the argument of like, well, who's giving their fair share and stuff like that. But if $14 for a small donation of $14, you get what you get.
Few in the arms of the angel.
You get what I'm saying? And so, what was one recent moment that made you hopeful about the future of Wichita?
One recent moment. I will tell you, I'm at the doors every single day, knocking on the doors, and what makes me hopeful is hearing the stories of the challenges that are on the hearts and minds of residents, and also understanding they're not these grandiose challenges. Folks want safe neighborhoods. They want to feel respected in their community and by their city. They want a voice in the process. They want to understand the process. These are things that we can fix. These are things that we can do better at. So what makes me hopeful is knowing that creating solutions to the challenges that people have, it's not only pragmatic, it's necessary, and also I think we can do it, right? We can bring hope to their lives and show them that local government doesn't just work for a select few of people, but it can work for everybody.
Yeah, because it's a city council, and I think that we lose touch of that, right? We think that it's like, oh, that's so far and I can't do this, and it's like you have to show up.
That's right.
Again, I'm going to plug the YouTube, so we were talking earlier, and and if you watch that, you will see how few of people actually go to the city council meetings. So if you complain about laws being passed, them spending money on bathrooms or whatever the case may be, these are going to be the places where you need to go to voice your opinion. And it can't be one person. It can't just be Sally showing up every Tuesday or whatever day it is and discussing this. We have to show up in numbers to say, this is how we feel. And there needs to be a coalition of people who say, hey, we want change.
That's right.
If not, we'll get voted number 2 for the most boring city. You get what I'm saying? So, what would you say to someone who feels like their voice doesn't matter or the system's too broken to fix?
Yeah, so first of all, there's lots of reasons to feel that might be valid to that individual. I think we see it all the time where again, I've said it, public servants say that they're going to do all these things and people get behind them. And then because they have not done their research about what's possible, we've given these folks false hope and then they give up on the system altogether. But ultimately, it's about making sure that we're working with those people to show them how local government can work. And it is sometimes slow. And it is sometimes not always working with the least among us in mind or with our community in mind. But that's why we need them at the table. Because if we continue to accept the system as it is, it will continue to operate that way. I don't like to think of the world as it is. I like to think of the world as it could be. And then we've got to mobilize folks to push back. And we also have to, it's kind of like that multiplier effect, right? But also recognizing within the multiplier effect where everybody has the opportunity to be a part of the change, we also all have to play a different role. You need the protester, right? Yeah. But you also need the person who's going to be in City Hall, knowing how to strategically move policy and projects around and engage with the folks. You need somebody at the corporate level engaging with the people who have the private capital to be able to invest. But you also need somebody in the community ready to mobilize them when something is being invested in that we didn't ask for or we don't want. And so to that individual who feels that way, they have to understand and accept what do they want their role to be within this system. And then they also have to then go and put their energy behind that even when they don't get the W that they want, right? And
it's a long-term W too, right?
It is a long-term W.
And I think I think that sometimes where we get lost.
Yes.
It's like we get lost in like, it's not instant, right?
No.
And we like, you know what? It's not going to work because it didn't work this season,
That's right?
And it's like, well, if you guys watch Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad had three good
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it had 2 bad seasons. You know, you think about it, if you have Walking Dead or whatever. I know this is a weird analogy, but just follow me. But if you have these long seasons and there's 3 seasons that it's not good, did you throw the whole show away?
That's right.
You didn't throw the whole show away. You went and said, I'll give it another chance.
Yeah.
So you need to equally, you need to do that more so for something that's going to be with you for your day-to-day life.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are so quick to give up on things that are actually going to directly impact us, but we'll continue to cheer for that athlete when they have a piss poor game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Or when they have a bad season, right? Yeah.
Cowboys ain't won, so
right.
You're still going to buy jerseys, but yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But, and that's real. I don't think I have any other questions at this point, but man, I really appreciate you going up. Like I really do. I think politics and a local level definitely needs something that needs a magnifying glass.
Yes.
Especially because we can have conversations like this, right?
That's right.
There is one more question that I would like to ask. How do we find out? Mm-hmm. Like, obviously you're active on social media, but I looked into my district.
That's right.
And they're not active. So how do I get more information off of them if it's somebody who's not a you and that's active?
Yeah.
In there, because there's a few of them that are active, but then there's others that I'm like, it's been a year since you last posted. You know what I mean? So how do we check that? And
absolutely. So each council member has what's called district advisory boards. District 1's takes place every first Monday at 6:00 p.m. at the Atwater Center, and every district has that. But there's a board of folks who help the city council member make recommendations, and there's also a public forum opportunity for folks to come in and ask these type of questions like, hey,
what's up with your Facebook?
Right.
You got a TikTok.
Yeah, right? Like, we need you to be more active in the digital world because the reality is not everybody can make a Tuesday morning, 9:00 city council meeting. Not everybody can come to a district advisory board breakfast. Yeah. Not everybody has the time to even go and seek out their council member. So sometimes the best way folks can be engaged with their constituents is through those digital platforms.
You got to meet the people where they're at.
1,000%.
I think that's you have to meet the people where they're at.
For me, right, like, it is, the elders in my district have made it very clear that digital world is great, but we like that face-to-face interaction. Yeah. And so throughout my entire campaign, there's a little bit of both, right? Yeah. We're posting up at coffee shops. We're posting up at neighborhood centers. We're posting up online too to meet that generation's
very,
needs.
very active.
Right, but you got to be everywhere at all times because the folks want resources and they want that access and they want to be in the know. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I would encourage folks to do. But the second thing is, after you've tried, and there's not a willingness, you hire your city council member.
You hire them, you guys,
And
which
so-
means you can do other things.
You can fire them as well,
they
right?
can get promoted to customer.
Yes,
You know?
you can fire them as well, and that's what democracy is about. It's about having options and having choices, and we're in a 5-way primary right now, and I tell people, you know, there's a little bit of something for everybody in my district. Of course, I want to be the one to elevate and represent my community. Yes, I think I'm the best person, but I'm applying for a job essentially. And the community is, you know, interviewing me left and right every day. And come August 5th, the day of the primary, they will have an opportunity to name who the 2 finalists will be for that final job interview. And then we'll move on to November. It works the same way for somebody who's already in that seat. They got the job, but now they have to keep it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the harder, right? It's keeping that job. But I tell everybody to go check out if you go to the story, there'll be the link to the city council meeting. So that way you're not just reading headlines, you can actually see it at the source and see the reason why some of these policies and stuff are getting put into action. And it's not just clickbait, right? So again, thanks for pulling up on us.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you always, man.
Yep, appreciate you too.
Thanks, brother.
Yep, absolutely.
Right on.